we're going to go ahead and get started, even though we don't have Kevin Charbonneau with us yet, who's the president of the council and who's agreed to chair this meeting going forward. And so I haven't met everyone around this table before, but I'll just say my name is Rick Ufford Chase. I'm the mayor now of Newport, Vermont. That's beginning to slip off my tongue a little more easily after 3 months. And we've now created 4 different task forces to help the city council arrive at informed and thoughtful decisions. How's that doing that?
Jenna, can you
Oh, there's...
Yes. Thank you, Jenna. So, hey, welcome, Chris. Come on in. Pull up a chair around the table here with us, next to Mike. So I just want to give you a sense of what we had in mind with this and how the other task forces are working, because I think they're instructive. In each case, we have had a staff person from the city who doesn't function as a formal member of the council of the task force, but who supports the task force in whatever help they need. In this case, we have kind of 1.5. Mike is going to be crazy busy this summer with rec department responsibilities, but will show up when we need him, if we need him, and occasionally to cover us on other moments. And Chief Bingham, Travis Bingham, is the one who kind of dreamed up the idea for this task force with me, and he fully intends to participate all the time. And he's had to be at a training for other police chiefs down in the center part of the state somewhere for 3 days this week, so he's not able to be here, and we decided it was more important to get started. Each one of the task forces is now chaired by a different council member. There are 4 members of council in Newport. So Kevin Charbonneau has agreed to chair this one. And in each instance, we have formally named the council, the city council has formally named either people or organizations in the case of this one, where we didn't know that we would always have the same person. So for instance, Lila, we did make it clear that it would be you or your designee who would be here, okay? The council has approved the people who have been asked to serve, and those folks have sat around the table. The other 2 task forces that are up and running now are 5 people, not 10, like this one is. So it's a little bit more unwieldy, but I think important to have all of the various folks at the table here. And then we've had anywhere between 2 and 4 or 5 people from the community who have been showing up for what have turned out to be almost weekly meetings in the case of the finance group and the water and sewer group, because their tasks have been so straightforward and significant. But we have tried to operate with as little distinction between community members and members of the task force as possible. So while at the end of the day, we've turned to the task force to make any final decisions about what they're actually recommending to City Council for action. Pam and Ann have been here, I think, for every one of these. I've missed more than they have, actually, so far. And the 2 of them have participated pretty fully in those task force meetings and offered comments. And I know Adam Ortiz, Adam's here in the room as well. Adam has lots of thoughts about this conversation. So all I ask from members of the community who choose to come is that we allow the task force to have the first word. We will find ways where it's appropriate for you all to chime in, and then we'll figure out ways to say, okay, I think we've done this one enough, and move on to the next topic. So for this afternoon, well, let me just say a word about the creation of this task force. Initially, about 6 weeks ago, Travis came to me and said, I'm feeling like we really need some kind of a police enforcement policy, because it's really hard to give clear instructions to the officers of the Newport City Police Department about what they're supposed to do in response, particularly to folks who are without homes or who are loitering, if that's I don't even quite know language-wise what the appropriate words are at this point. And I'm trying really hard not to use language that has become laden over time. So in my judgment, we're talking about anyone who is unhoused and doesn't have somewhere to be, and therefore ends up in public spaces for long periods of time, whether it's during the day or overnight. That's kind of as much as I've defined it so far. And you all may want to work together to help come up with some definitions that we can then educate the community about, both the council and the community about in the future. So I immediately said to Travis that I thought it was important to have such a policy, but that if we didn't have it in the broader context of why people are not housed and what services are available for people who are not housed, then it would just be a game of, moving people from one place to another every day or every other day, and the officers would feel frustrated. I know they felt some frustration about that, and it doesn't help anybody. So Travis was very open to that and immediately suggested that we do something that would include a conversation about what I've been famous for naming these things long, ridiculous names that we do not have to use in our own parlance, but I think it's important for the community to know that we see this as at least 3 different interrelated things. So the name of this task force officially, as approved by the council, is the Task Force on Housing Insecurity, Public Encampments, and Community Safety. The council has given this group of people a lot of latitude to go and do its work and then bring recommendations back to the council. So this group has no legal or official authorization to make decisions or to take action on its own. But the council, I guarantee, will take very seriously any recommendations that come from this body, which you can do at any time. I can put it on the agenda for any meeting that we want, whenever you think you've got one or more recommendations, and it doesn't need to wait till the end of a process. You could say, we really want to deal with this thing right out of the box because this seems like a high priority. So for today, I wanted to just do really 3 things. To let you all introduce yourselves to one another and to me, because I don't know all of you very well. And then to talk a little bit about the mandate that the council is working on, which basically Travis and I drafted and took to council, and they reviewed and then approved. So we tried to be specific about what it is we're really looking for in terms of the outcome or the deliverable. And then I thought perhaps we could just talk a little bit about where you'd like to begin. If you think there are priorities, we should know them. And if you would like experts, whatever that may mean to us, or colleagues from other communities or whatever, to come and speak with us by Zoom, if you can give us a couple of weeks warning, Travis and Mike and I can work on putting those kinds of things together so that we can resource the group appropriately. So today I just wanted to agree on how often do we want to meet, is this the appropriate time, and how do we want to move forward in terms of the first steps. And the final thing I'll say is that I think probably all of you in the room know Pam Lads, who is doing a remarkable job entirely as a volunteer at documenting all of the work of the council, which so far has included all of these meetings. Pam has made nothing like a commitment that she will be here to film every one of these task force meetings. But she agreed to come and help us do the first one, which will then help interpret to the community what our intentions are. So all I would ask is that you remember, as we're speaking, I'm not looking for you to actually filter your comments, because what's been magical about the other 2 task forces, is I think Travis can attest because he's been serving on one, is that we've been pretty, honest. We've shared pretty deeply about what we think the challenges are in front of us. And so we're not playing to the camera in any way, except to be thoughtful about the fact that other people may watch it. And I'd like us to be thoughtful and respectful about other people in the community as we talk about the ways they may be impacted by this or impacting the situation. So just be aware of that, at least for today. And we are not taping any of the rest of this. All I did was turn on the AI notes on the Google Meet. So, with that said, I wonder if we might start, Pastor Larry, with you and just have introductions with a little bit about your background and what you're doing in the community and any interest that brings you to the table in particular.
Okay, Pastor Larry Ball. I pastor the Church of God in Derby, right next to Northeast Kingdom Human Services. I'm a lover of the NEK. Been pastoring that church for 35 years. I've seen a lot of things take place in the community. And one of the reasons I'm here is because the mayor is a friend, and he asked me, and I said yes. But this is an issue that we've dealt with as a church. And I know that in the kingdom, having served on different boards and committees, etc., that if anything's going to get done, there has to be collaboration. So I saw this as an opportunity for collaboration to take place. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
My name is Melissa Mosley, and I'm the Assistant Director of Journey to Recovery. What brings me to the table today is in our jobs, seeing people come into our center, accessing the resources, and knowing that there is a housing issue, and knowing that these other issues are out there, and you can start feeling a little frustrated on where to be able to and how to do that. So I'm here to learn and be a part of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lila Bennett. I'm the Director of Journey to Recovery. I think really I'm here for all of those reasons because we were invited to be at the table, which is always really nice to be able to collaborate with our community and not work in our little silo. We do see a lot of just people struggling with lack of housing and just lack of resources, and then it snowballs into other struggles too. And so I think being here to work together to collaborate on this would be really helpful. Get ahead of it. It's really stressful for us when we don't have anything to offer.
Yeah, what do you do, right?
It's a really terrible feeling. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go up to Jenna next, if that's okay, Travis.
Thanks. I wonder, the only thing I can see is the top of your head.
Oh.
Right, so
Oh,
I
it's
don't know if
because
there's
it's
any way to angle
Hold on,
something,
no.
but
Why isn't the owl working? Hold on. I didn't realize the owl wasn't turned on. Let's see if that does it. If it does, we'll hear a little owl cooing noise in a moment here.
right.
You might have to change your camera setting.
Okay?
That little up. Next one over here. Yeah, so where
Now I can't. No, I can't see anything.
it says the integrated camera, you just had it a second ago.
Oh, thank you. Can you
Yeah. You're right.
Casey's good at it.
There it is. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is what they primarily employ me at NEK for.
There we go. Oh, look at that. Jenna, I'm so glad you asked.
Look at all the people. Okay, great. Thanks. I'm Jenna Farrell. I'm the Executive Director of Northeast Kingdom Community Action. And I'm super excited to be part of this task force and have these discussions because in St. Johnsbury, we have, I know Casey's there. I heard you say hi, Chris. I think, is Chris Mitchell there?
Yep.
Yep.
Chris Mitchell is part of the task force in St. Johnsbury. It's been a public safety task force, and it really started kind of, I think, in a very similar need that you're talking about in your introduction. And after some work and some surveying, we were lucky to work with the KeySet team that's funded through, how is that funded? Department of not digital services.
Public safety.
Public safety, is that who's funding it? Yeah. So there's 5 communities that have gotten these awards for this from the governor's office, and they provide consultancy in developing these teams, which you're on your way to doing. After we did some work in St. Johnsbury, we came up with kind of 5 buckets, I think, of work that community members felt like needed to be addressed, and they were mental health services, substance use, gun violence, housing, justice-involved individuals, and unmet needs. And besides community members and the town manager, who was mainly facilitating, we had the Council on Aging present, Northeast Kingdom Human Services, Recovery Center, Domestic Violence Agency, hospital, schools, fire, police, dispatch. And we start the meeting by looking at data to see who in our community use the most services in terms of police and fire, and are there ways to wrap around services to those unique individuals. So I'm very interested to see what kind of approach Newport we can develop and to support community members who often need the most. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Appreciate it. Travis?
Hi, I'm Travis Gaines. I'm the administrative head of school at United Christian Academy. It's an independent K through 12 school located on School Street, about a block south here, west of here.
West.
Still getting my Vermont bearings. So in another life, I was a paramedic, still a certified paramedic, but I haven't actively worked in that arena for a while. But I have volunteered and remained in EMS in some capacity from 1997 until I moved up here. A lot of that in the Houston area. So not police experience with some of the issues here, but emergency services experience. Obviously, Houston is a different ball game than Vermont. I think 3 million in population compared to 750 in the state. But I think it's still applicable experience. Though I'm concerned with all of the issues that are included in the mandate here, I will admit, by virtue of my occupation currently and the lives that I'm responsible for, public safety is the main reason that I wanted to be included at the table. Having a large number of children here in the downtown area that we need to keep safe. So, looking forward to the work to be done.
Thank you, Travis. Cynthia.
Hi everybody, I'm Samantha Stacy from North Country Supervisor Union Community Schools. Our program works with youth and families experiencing homelessness and conditions of poverty. So I've gotten to know a lot of the families that are unhoused in our community currently, and be with them through the journey of finding and staying in housing, which has its unique challenges here. I really think that although we have our challenges of being remote and funding running out, including my job, so I actually wanted to be on this task force so I could stay doing this work because I really feel it's important. I think that we have everything that we need here to take care of the people that need to be taken care of until they can pass it along. I think creative solutions, this is a great opportunity for that sort of thing, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Yeah, it's gonna feel so good when we have successes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I should have said, as Chris, you take it, that actually I neglected to say that Travis and I met with Chris, what was that, a month and a half ago or something like that? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Casey. Sorry, Chris. Chris and I sat with Travis to try and talk about what this might look like as well. So I appreciate that. But why don't you go next then?
Yeah, thanks. My name is Casey Winterson. I'm the Director of Economic and Community-Based Services at NECA, Northeast Kingdom Community Action. And we are a lot of things in the Northeast Kingdom. Related to homelessness, we are the lead of what we call Coordinated Entry, which is the statewide program that is basically a database that allows for folks to get on, to be able to be seen if they're experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. It also is a way to as a prioritization list for folks coming off of that list that may be finding housing, being put in with vouchers, different programs that the state runs that are on a prioritization list. So connection there, very much interested, invested, all of the things in the world of housing. It's where I really started my career and have a deep passion for. Outside of the housing and homelessness services, I also oversee our food security programs, our economic access department, and our community and restorative justice program. So as some of you may remember, Orleans County Restorative Justice, after their closure, we took over the remainder of the grants that they had and have been operating. We had some grants ahead of time before that within the restorative justice world, but we are now, for all intents and purposes, the Orleans County Restorative Justice Center. And have a deep interaction with folks that are interacting with the criminal justice system, from anywhere to youth age all the way to those that have been incarcerated that are coming back out into our community. So very much invested on that front as well. We run a couple of houses here for transitional housing for folks coming out of incarceration, and those are right in Newport. And we also, outside of all the other things, we run 5 shelter apartments in the Newport area, which are for families who are experiencing homelessness. Outside of the Newport area, we also have our shelter at Moose River, which is a 20-bed congregate shelter for folks experiencing homelessness. We also run an additional 5 emergency apartments down in Caledonia, southern Essex. So thinking of the split of the different districts here. So very invested, as Jenna said. The PSET group that we have been working on, Chris, myself, Jenna, I think that there's a lot of really great things that we'll be able to glean from that, and it did very much start like a table like this. So excited to see it happen here in Newport, and thankful to be along for the ride.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks.
Hello everybody, my name is Mike Brown. I'm the Director of Recreation. Part of my responsibility and why I'm here is I oversee Prouty Beach Campground. And we're on the front lines at the campground on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis. We're interacting and assisting unhoused individuals, families, and we want to be sensitive to the issue, but we need the tools in order to help them, because it's not an ideal location to go to the campground and camp there for an undetermined amount of time. So we're trying to figure it out.
Thanks, Mike. Chris?
I'm Chris Mitchell. I'm the Field Services Director for the State of Vermont Agency of Human Services, not to be confused with Northeast Human Services. The agency is made up of DCF, Dale, Department of Health, Department of Mental Health, DEVA, which is Medicaid, and Department of Corrections. So Field Services works out of Secretary's office, central office in Waterbury, but we are trying to be involved in anything and everything in our community, whether the agency is funding it or it is something that sort of supports the efforts of the programs and resources we fund. So happy to be here, happy to support, been involved in the St. Johnsbury project, and I think we have a lot we can learn from them and maybe be even more efficient going off of the experiences we've had from down there. So happy to be here.
Thanks, Chris. And I'll just mention 3 other people besides Kevin Charbonneau and Travis Bingham who wanted to be here and couldn't this afternoon. One is Amber Robbins with NKHS, who I think is the liaison to the police department. Is that right? Does anybody know?
I believe she's embedded part-time.
Yes, I think she's embedded part-time with the PD. And she sent regrets today and was sorry she couldn't be here. And then Gabriella Stacy is I think a junior at the high school. And I met her a month ago or so when I was asked to come and speak to the government and civics class, and she buttonholed me in the hallway after and said that she was very interested because of her own personal history and would like to be a part of such a conversation. So I expect she will join in when and where she can. And then finally, I did reach out to Umbrella, and they're still trying to figure out exactly how to juggle things, but would like to have somebody at this table, so they will be showing up at some point. So I think really, I mean, other than to just, this does not have to be all that we do, but when the council was trying to consider how to kind of help this group get off the ground, the strategies that we wanted to have on your minds, the things that the council is looking for guidance about, include ensuring public safety, creating viable and safe options for people who are unhoused, and we're particularly concerned about winter months, and the fact that right now there are really no options here and few options in the region. And we're also concerned that disasters are a fact of our lives and our communities now too. And we don't have many things, nobody's, as far as I can tell, I don't know of, let me say it that way, I don't know of strategies that are in existence for how to respond to folks in those kinds of disaster moments in our community. I have not yet begun to hear, in my role as as director, my day job as director of Newport Downtown Development, I have not gotten a lot of pushback or angst or feedback from our downtown businesses. But it would not surprise me if this were, it would surprise me if this weren't a factor at some point, probably sooner rather than later. I'm listening to the concerns of other directors of designated downtowns across the state, and they are consumed by this question. And you know, you probably all are watching this, the Brattleboro 1, I think it's called, experiment, where they're trying to do this kind of work collaboratively now too, because it just became such a problem, and people were screaming at each other in city council meetings, and businesses were really upset. And you know, many of them see themselves as advocates and couldn't. Anyway, it's just a thing. So I suspect that's coming for us. And then looking into what effective collaboration models looks like how do we make sure that we're talking with each other and that the city isn't acting in some way that's either counter to or disconnected from the work that all of you are doing. We want to talk about best enforcement practices. What are other cities doing and other police departments doing? And then just trying to, I think Jenna just gave us the same links that we were really thinking about here, right? The links, but exploring the links and trying to figure out how to respond to them between public safety, lack of affordable housing, human trafficking, addiction, drug trafficking. We didn't put gun violence on the list, but certainly could have. So all of those things were the things that were most on our mind. And I think I just want to put that much out and suggest that it's 4 o'clock, and I would recommend that we take maybe 15 minutes or so to hear any ideas that you all have about how to get started, how often to meet, what you think good practices would look like for this table, and then maybe shortly after 4:15 we could agree on next meeting times and a regular habit for meetings so we can all get it on our calendars, so that when we walk out the door at 4:30 sharp today, which is my commitment to you all, we all know what to expect next and what we've committed to. Does that sound all right? Great. So the floor is yours. I'd love to hear what's on people's minds.
I mean, it would be really great to start talking about how to have a homeless shelter here. I think that would help a lot. Without it, it makes it difficult for us to know what to do. We're all just trying to do the best we can. What does anybody else think?
I think that's a great project to for this team to really wrap around and to lift up. And so that's a multiple step project. But I also think the immediate need might be around what's not safe right now, because I think even if we put all our eggs in the basket of lifting up that shelter, which we certainly need to do, we will still have individuals who will not want to come into shelter. Yeah. From our experience as shelter providers, that did not solve St. John's issue with folks being unhoused and struggling with other issues. So I think that's certainly something we need to dig into. But I wonder about how to support and wrap around individuals too.
Go ahead, Adam.
My name's Adam Ortiz. I've been homeless on and off since teenage years. I've lived in Covenant House. I've lived in shelters where there's an open field, then you grab a bunk, and you get one or you don't. The last place I stood was in Veterans Housing in Northfield. There's homeless shelters all over Vermont, and they're invisible because nobody causes problems because it's going to mess it up for everybody else. There's different types of homeless shelters for different types of needs, whether they're escaping an abusive relationship. I understand the difference between somebody that's homeless and somebody that's a nomad. I've been around people that have more money than God, but they choose to live on the road. They're technically homeless, but they're by choice. They're a nomad. So I totally understand what you're talking about. There needs to be different homeless shelters for different types of homeless. The battered women's shelter would be ideal across the parking lot from the detainment center. So anybody running away from an abusive relationship, and it sounds like a joke, but if you violate your order of protection and you're stupid enough to drive yourself to prison, I know I'm not gonna get away with follow the yellow brick road. There you go. Again, when women escape abusive relationships with their children, where's the kid's gonna go to school now? Because the abuser is definitely gonna wait in front of the kid's school, waiting for his kid, and follow where homeless teens, teenagers from throwing a tantrum, I've seen it in Covenant House, to coming out of the closet, get out of my house, to I was just constantly thrown out because I was. When I was 15 years old, I stopped coming back. And that's just what it was. When I got out the military, I just didn't fit into society. I had money, I chose to sleep in my car, and I traveled all 50 states. So there's a difference between somebody that's homeless because they had a fire. I worked with the American Red Cross, and I've relocated people after disasters, and we need to get them all their paperwork. So there's different types for what is their immediate need, to include the people trying to cross the border and they get stuck and they get dropped off at the Walmart or a mobile gas station. They don't speak the language, their phone's not working, and they don't have American money. So do we put them in a homeless shelter where they can't speak English? So there needs to be more than one facility specific for that person's required needs.
Thanks, son.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Happy to be of service. Listen, my father was a professional victim from the day he was born to the day he died. So I know the difference between somebody in need and somebody milking the system.
Have any of the agencies here at the table quantified the issue? Do we have an idea, a rough estimate on how many homeless there are, and how many of those are chronically homeless versus temporarily homeless?
Yeah, so the coordinated entry list does exactly that. So we have a good idea. I'm not gonna pretend to guess right now off the top of my head, but I could have those numbers for the next meeting, and it's listed by whether they're chronic, if they are a veteran status, if it's a family. It's only as good as the folks that come in and report. So there is often the case that, and we see this throughout the whole state system, that like folks know the coordinated entry system and they don't want to be a part of it, so they don't come into NEK-TV or one of our community partners to do the assessment. But we do have a generally a good idea. We also do outreach within the community of going to different places to try to find individuals that may not be on the coordinated entry list. So I would say we have a pretty good idea, but again, it's only as far as the folks that are visible, and oftentimes, especially in the Northeast Kingdom, people, if they don't want to be visible, they are not.
I will say the idea that was kicking around in my head before we got started that I would like to see if it has any legs at all is when it comes to the safety issue. One of the issues that I have is, being a recent transplant to this area, I don't have all the information that some people that have been here for their whole lives have. If I'm concerned and ask somebody at work, who is this person who's, happens to be hanging around, our parking lot where kids are playing. Well, that's Bob. Bob's harmless. Okay, I have no idea who Bob is. Or that's Greg, and Greg's a little feisty, and you may want to keep an eye out. I wonder how open the folks who are unhoused that don't necessarily want to be in a shelter, that want to have some level of independence and autonomy in the city, would be to something kind of similar to a trusted traveler program, where I know that, okay, John may be a problem. John has had, is on a registry possibly, or has had issues with violence, something like that, and that would be a person that might be worth law enforcement resources to come and relocate away from a sensitive area, as opposed to other people who might be willing to submit to a background check or have some information that could be given to business owners that, this is this person. If they're problematic, you can ask them, they're willing to relocate or something like that, just to build some cooperation there. So it isn't just, I see somebody here, it's obvious they don't belong here, I'm going to call law enforcement, take up those resources, and who knows what happens after that point to that person. If it's not really necessary, if they just happen to be in an area, maybe look suspicious or something like that's going on. But if we had a little more background, a little more information, we could make better judgment calls. And so I don't know if anything like that has ever been tried in any communities, but we're a small enough area where it would seem that, I was surprised at how many people were able to describe a person as, hey, I've got a person hanging out. Oh, I know exactly who that person is, and give me a little bit of background.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be something that we could dig into. Maybe we could, say these are areas that it's okay, but these areas are a little more sensitive. And, as long as you're not hanging around here or there, then the rest is kind of free reign for daytime hours, what have you.
So we have a lady that we've been helping for quite some time on the Crawford Road. She lives in a tent, and it's been 2 years, so winters in that tent. And our carport has plugs, so she can charge her pads and stuff like that. And we let her come in and out. And actually now it is worked so that the judge ordered her to have visitation with her daughter at our church. So twice a week they use the church for that. But here's the deal with her, because we tried, I didn't like her being down there in the winter. I thought, man, we're going to wake up one day and she's going to be frozen to death. And she did have a caseworker and all of that. And I said, look, I don't want her down there. We got to get her. And we found her a place to stay, but she would not. And the reason is that she got evicted from her last apartment and was traumatized by that eviction, and she does not want to go through that again. Now, some wonderful things have happened in her life. She has really progressed, and she used to be one of these that would get really agitated. That has calmed down. There's a lady in our church that has taken her under her wing and drives her to her appointments and all of that. She's even using our post office box to get mail, from. But this is a person that, when he was talking about the different needs, that's the block for her. Now, there's another guy that we helped a lot, but there's no way we could get any kind of background information on him. Don't know where he came from, don't know who he is, just know what his name is. But we let him stay on our property, and he made a mess of it, and then he started making some of the people uncomfortable. They felt unsafe. So I had to tell him, you need to move on. You just need to move on. And he said, you don't like me. It's because you don't like me. I said, no, man, I love you, but it's time, And we really helped him a lot. So each case has its own, there's not one size fits all. My daughter Emma, Dr. Emma, she's into this up in Burlington. And they're doing some pretty cool stuff up there, but I'm telling you. And she said, you need to get some of those folk in your meetings. Now, listening to you, it gave me hope, because you're right on the front line. So you know what the needs are, where they could be better served than, I don't want to compare, but up there, a lot of the people that are making the decisions really haven't even interviewed a homeless or an unhoused person. So, but each case is different, and it's going to be very challenging. But we can make a difference. There's no question.
Go ahead.
I'm just a regular citizen, but I am a little concerned about a tension that I feel exists between finding places for the homeless to live and coupling that in any way with words like human trafficking, addiction, and drug trafficking. I think those problems cut across the community in many ways and are not specifically in any way related to homelessness. And I think that if we get off track in any of those ways, dealing with those problems, you could lose the focus on what really needs to happen to provide the services and the housing that people really need. I haven't thought it out a lot. I just saw it listed here, and I think I'd have something more intelligent to say about it eventually. But I am, it hurts me in a way to have that in somehow thrust on a community of homeless people.
I just have a question for Jenna. What are the populations that you feel like specifically are falling through the cracks? In St. Johnsbury, you started the homeless shelter. Can you speak to that a little more? And I really appreciate what you said about that.
Yeah, and Chris and Casey can talk about this too. It's the folks who are not in shelter, who are currently like on the streets and in public spaces, are folks who are using substances primarily, and those are folks that often receive services primarily from EMS and the police, and then they have light touches with public, like our agency or with human services, and that's where the public safety team really staffs kind of those individuals who come into contact with EMS and the police and try to design human outreach connections with people to really wrap around, like what do they identify their needs are to be safe and get on a path of, is it to be housed, or is it to be medically stable? Do they need primary care? Like what the issue is. Like Casey and Chris can talk, it's probably easier for them in the room.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. I mean, Jenna definitely teed it up. So we are not we're a low barrier shelter, but we're not a zero barrier shelter. And that's, I think, a major difference, or that's kind of the major tension point that exists, is like we'll bring folks in that are actively using and may come to the door high or under the influence, but once they get through the door, they go through a metal detector, their bags are searched, and if they have any items that's paraphernalia or drug related, they are asked to leave. And if they come back and don't have it, then that's fine. But I think that the zero barrier shelters are extremely difficult to run. They exist. I don't know of any that exist in the state right now, but they are shelters where folks can be actively using in a space, and it's just even in this low barrier world that we're operating in right now, that's a difficult enough scenario. So, like Jenna said, I think ultimately there are going to be folks that come to the door on those really, really cold nights, and they've hid their stuff somewhere in the woods, and they come in and they start to detox while they're in the space, and they leave halfway through the night. But and then they don't come back for a little while. But then once they start to, if they get to the point of wanting to be sober, they may come back into shelter and give it a try for a couple of nights, and it may not work out. But we have had folks that have come in off the street who are active users who are now in recovery. So I think there's a large scope of like the things that we can do within a low barrier shelter, but I think that is the biggest challenge. I'll also say like extreme mental health challenges is another one, and those are not always aligned, but very often can be aligned. We have really struggled with often, discharge planning that doesn't really include NEK-TV.
Yeah.
So it's just like, here, the papers, goodbye. There's a shelter in St. Johnsbury, and then they show up on our door, and we take them in, and the first, couple of honeymoon days are perfect, beautiful, and then the next mental health crisis happens, and we're, unfortunately calling the police or having to exit them. So I think that like those really are the two populations. I'd also say what we don't have in the kingdom is a family shelter outside of the shelter apartments that are run. And not that we have a significant number of families who are not in the hotel program. I think we have one or two street homeless families throughout the entirety of the kingdom, and it may be even less than that now. But that is a thing of, as we think of this GA program and the general assistance, for folks that don't speak the lingo, the general assistance hotel motel program, as that starts to off-ramp, and we start to see more families ending up in homelessness, street homelessness, that may be another area of significant need for the kingdom as a whole.
Chris, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try and draw us to a close.
I know, I was looking at the clock.
We're doing okay. Thanks.
Two things. I appreciate your comment about sort of the categories related, and although at times interrelated, not always completely. In Newport, I facilitate what's referred to as a risk meeting, and I don't know what risk stands for because I inherited it, but essentially it's a meeting between law enforcement, human service providers, Department of Corrections, and they bring cases because police officers aren't bound to HIPAA, and they talk about the people they're interacting with frequently, kind of what they're seeing, where they're hanging out, and when folks can communicate back, they say, great, we'll reach out to this person, or we've tried 10 times, call us next time you see them. So some of those other aspects of those categories are trying to be addressed outside of this council. So to your point, maybe separating and limiting the scope a bit more might be more effective. And on human trafficking specifically, Sheriff Carlo chairs a task force that's utilizing an employee from the Burlington Police Department who works on human trafficking statewide. So again, maybe able to sort of X that out of the scope of this group, knowing that work is happening elsewhere, and perhaps Sheriff Carlo would come be a conduit from time to time to talk about updates and how it's related. The last thing I'll say is St. Johnsbury really started off with their policy around, I think it's highly sensitive areas. So they were focused on areas where they felt people may be in danger. So very close to riverbanks, right, that may swell up when we get rain. Very close to railroad tracks where folks might not be safe when the railroad actually comes through. Places near the power company, I believe, or land that the power company owned. So they really focused on these places that were absolutely no, you cannot be camping here. And I think they've done a very good job at not saying, yes, you can be in some places, but sort of putting a blind eye to some locations and letting people sort of be autonomous, be independent, and exercise their right to be homeless. And the last thing, they've done a really good job at working in a humanistic way with the folks that are homeless and do need to be moved. So they're not showing up, with a backhoe and plowing over the tents. They're talking to people. They're giving them fair warning days in advance, and really trying to do it in a supportive way. And I think that's something we should certainly incorporate into whatever we produce here.
Thank you. You're the only one who hasn't spoken. Do you want to say anything before we wrap up this afternoon?
I liked what Chris said at the end there. I think that if this task force is going to be a benefit for the community, then we need to approach it with compassion and kindness and treat people like human beings, because that's what they are. And that was really successful with the work that I've been able to do. We have I think on the top of the agenda should maybe change it away from being a task force, because that kind of gives them not that it's not for an authoritative reason, but approachability I think is key, because then we can ask the people who are experiencing the system from the other end and find actual solutions that they're looking for when they need them.
Thank you, Sam. So we do only have about 5 minutes left. I want to add one more thing that I've been trying to take notes about what I'm hearing might be priorities as places to begin. The one that I haven't heard that I know Travis would want me to lift up is that in spite of the fact that we don't have a very good system at this point to be responsive to, his officers are having to engage folks pretty much every day, especially in the summertime. And so any guidance that we could give right off the bat with some kind of a simple policy that they could apply consistently and fairly. And my experience of this police department is that they really are working at trying to be compassionate in how they operate.
They definitely are. Yeah.
So I think we're in a good position, and I think this group could be in a position to help them figure out, like, okay, so yes, these are the places where we really do need to move people away. When we do that, what happens? What happens if they're doing it 3 days in a row, right? And just trying to come up with some basic policy to help. So I'm not going to do it today, Adam, if that's okay. Hold the thought and we'll come back.
I'm happy to bring the policies. So St. J's is adapted off of Montpelier's.
Great.
So I can bring both of those.
Okay, I think that'd be really helpful.
As like at least a background.
Travis has some J's, I think.
And I know he's also just gotten the one from Burlington.
Okay.
So
Montpelier would be good though.
With Amber embedded with the police, I mean, she would have some insight.
I hope so.
She couldn't be here, but.
Yes, though I understand she's actually leaving that position shortly. So,
because to me, that's very important.
Careful about how we talk about her. But yes, she will continue to be a part of this table, I think, is what I'm hearing her say.
Yes.
So, having said all of that, my sense is that we ought to be meeting at least twice a month, because once a month is just not enough to try and build momentum, if that feels acceptable to all of you. So then my next question is, does Wednesdays at 3:30 actually work in your lives? And I think we should assume that meetings will probably run closer to an hour and a half than to an hour. I think we could commit to being done in 90 minutes, but I'm not sure we can commit to a 60-minute timeline every week. So are there better times? Is this a really problematic time for some people? The only thing I'm concerned about is that I want to commit to trying to do it at 3:30 in the afternoon, one day a week, if that's possible, because both Gabriella, as a student, and Kevin, who works at the high school, would be better positioned to participate if we do that.
I selfishly enjoy Wednesdays. I'm here on Wednesdays in person, so that's what makes it really easy for me to be here. But I could try to figure something else out or pop in remotely.
Most of us responded that Wednesday was the day.
Pretty good. Does it,
Yeah.
Lila, and Melissa, how does it work for Jimmy recovery?
We can manage it.
Between the two of us, we can do that. Yes.
And Jenna, is this okay for you? I know that your attendance may have to be spotty as well, sometimes. Okay, and Travis, I think this was working for you fairly well, right?
Well, yeah, coming into the summer,
It may change.
staff meetings once I hit like mid-August, but after that.
So maybe we start saying twice a month for now in the summer on Wednesdays at 3:30. Just stick with this time, which I think will work for Travis in general as well.
So when's the next one?
Well, I think if it's okay with y'all, we could just do first and thirds. We're just on the first and just do it 2 weeks from now.
The 18th?
But not every 2 weeks. We're talking first and third Wednesdays.
Okay, third Wednesday.
First and third Wednesdays, yes.
Okay, good.
And Kevin and I will get a calendar invite to all of you for both of those twice a month meetings.
Any other action items aside from policy gathering?
It sounds to me like Casey's going to bring us some material that would be really helpful for the next meeting, and it will take much less time to get us up and running. So perhaps next time we could ask Casey to kind of give us some of the statistical overview, some things about policies that already exist that we could kind of pull from. And then, I expect these conversations to be fairly freewheeling. So you all can take them the direction you need to go.
I'm going to be in May, that's the 18th.
Yes, that's correct. The next one's on the
Can I Zoom in?
Yes. Yes, we will provide a Zoom link, a Google Meet link each meeting. So if you're not here, you can make an appearance that way. I think it's helpful to have a significant number of us face to face in the room. I just find that these conversations can go deeper, faster, and farther when we have some people around a table. So, and we'll keep using this space for the meetings.
And then, depending on where we lie with what it ends up, the title wise, I know that is what it is, but if we start to pull threads apart and say that we're going to really focus on homelessness, or we're really going to focus on public safety, I do think, if possible, that P&P should be invited, because they were a big interaction in the St. Johnsbury area, and we have a lot of
P&P.
Probation and parole, Department of Corrections. We have a lot of interactions with them. I'm thinking about the public safety thread. I think it's an important one. So,
why don't you and I follow up about that? Okay.
And someone from the hospital would be helpful too.
Somebody from the hospital, is that what you said, Jenna?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but their emergency planner, I want to say Mike, could be wrong though. He came to my last risk meeting and seemed to be interested in getting more involved in sort of community efforts. So,
can you connect me?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. If that sounds okay to everybody, I'll include those folks. Adam?
Can you give everybody my information? I'd like to be of service. And forward the email I sent to you about what I think, and then you know where I'm coming from. Because I'm boots on ground. I know the difference between somebody in trouble and somebody who knows how to milk the system. I call that person dad.
Okay.
Are we tasked with coming up with a title for the group?
You can rename it if you want and ask the council permission to change it around as you want.
We're going to do a study about the study to have a study.
Yeah, I just don't want to get too lost in that task. I want to thank you all. This is exactly what we were hoping for to get started. So thank you for coming. And look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.